Tracking data is about to kill e-commerce. Many stores are going to crash and burn. Yiqi is joining us.
So having a full picture about how your site visitor is doing and why they come back and when they come back is super important, because then you can figure out like what's the behavioral pattern for my customers. How do I target them better? How do I understand my customers better? And fundamentally, that's how you improve Facebook or any sort of marketing strategies.
Hey everybody, we're Tillison Consulting and we love digital marketing, and you're listening to the Inside Digital podcast. This is your one-stop shop to learn and expand your knowledge within the digital marketing space. Here's today's episode.
Welcome to Inside Digital podcast. I'm Mark Tillison, and my team and I scale e-commerce stores to 7 figures and beyond. So today I want to talk about what's happening to tracking and what do you need to do about this meteor headed your way. And Yiqi is joining us, so thank you so much. But yeah, like many of you, I'm really worried about what this means. So we depend on that performance data, that conversion data to scale performance. We want to know how much Google Ads is generating in terms of revenue, or Facebook ads, or et cetera, or how much is coming from organic and all these different channels that we invest time and effort in. And we can't do that effectively without data. So we don't know to invest more time and effort when we don't know where the money's coming from and where the profit's coming from. So this is a huge problem. So make sure you listen all the way through. We're going to cover a whole heap of topic here, and I'm sure we'll get into kind of some anecdotal stuff and a bit of fun along the way. But do listen through to the end, and hopefully we'll be able to solve this kind of real sticky problem for all of us. So I want to welcome Yiqi from Aimerce. So we've been doing some work together, which has been amazing. Thank you so much. Who's going to help us avoid this meteor? What can we do? So why don't you just give us a quick bit of background? How did you end up in this, unpicking this mess? How did you get where you are now?
Right. Thank you for having me, Mark. Hi, everybody. This is Yiqi, founder of Aimerce. A little bit of background about me. I am an engineer. I used to work at Facebook for a very long time. So I have seen and worked on a lot of data products internally. And my parents also run the e-commerce store. So I have kind of seen both sides, how e-commerce operator struggle with all this data stuff. And then Facebook is collecting all the data. Obviously, a lot of you run Facebook ads, Google ads, etc. So I can see both sides. And I've seen there's a huge gap between how Facebook calculate things, how Facebook is running ads versus how e-commerce people perceive that, and what's the gap is kind of big of understanding, and there's a lot of missed opportunities there. And obviously cookies getting deprecated, this has become even worse. So this is how and why I get into this industry.
Yeah. So how has conversion tracking worked for Google ads and Facebook ads until kind of now? It still works today, right, but obviously There's a big change. So right. Just maybe bring us up to speed on where we are now.
Conversion tracking, it sounds boring, right? To a lot of people like you, it's I don't know what that is. Why do I need to care about it? But this is actually the backbone, the foundation of how you run ads, right? If you don't do this correctly, you're wasting a lot of money on the ads. So that's why this is a super important topic for a lot of you to understand. Obviously, you can do a lot of ads, creatives, ads, campaign structures, but if without conversion tracking done correctly, you're just losing money on ads. So why is conversion tracking important? It's because how Facebook run ads, they calculate the algorithm to decide who to target, who to prospect. All this kind of algorithm is trained on top of a data set. The data set is coming from your website, who added to cart, who checkout started, who purchased. Right? Without those information feeding back to the algorithm, they wouldn't know who to target next. Then your ads wouldn't be performing. So basically what that means is you need to track all the behavior, add to cart, leads, checkout started, purchase, especially purchase, all these kind of data correctly and accurately, and then feed it back into the Facebook, Google algorithm. That is what conversion tracking means.
Yeah, and from my point of view, obviously we run huge numbers of campaigns and work with a lot of stores, and that data is critical because a lot of the time we're using machine learning to kind of optimize the conversions, get us more sales. So if we're feeding it incorrect data, then it's going to make the wrong decisions.
Right.
And we can allow for that. We can, we were talking before we came on air that we have a method where we could say, well, actually, what's being reported in Google Ads versus what's in Google Analytics, what's really happening on the website. Actually, we can see, give or take, that maybe Google Ads is underreporting by 50%. And the maths of that means actually there's 100% more than it's actually telling you it's generating. It's generating. So at a very simple level, we spent 5K last month on Google Ads. We generated 10K's worth of revenue. Well, that's loss making. We don't make enough profit for that. Let's turn it off. Whereas actually, in reality, it's not 10K of revenue, it's 20K. Oh, that's really profitable. Let's spend 10K and generate 40 then. So even a simple decision like that, you make the wrong decision because the data is inaccurate. So it's really super critical to understand, A, if you have a gap, and B, to close that gap and make the data as accurate as possible. And so what's changing now? Why do this show? Why is everybody running around screaming about what's changing and why?
So tracking has becoming more and more difficult because cookies are getting deprecated, right? Originally, in the past history, how we track conversions, how we track behaviors is we have like a JavaScript inserting on the website and we track all these behavior events, especially for purchase, we track it post-purchase page because you are not allowed to track on the checkout. There's too much sensitive information there, right? Tracking that page has become really difficult because of cookie deprecation, also ad blockers. So there's a lot of interference between how you can track the data correctly. Over the last few years, things has shifted everything to track on the server side. I know this sounds like a little bit more abstract, but what it really means is instead of tracking on the website itself, we're relying on all the data coming from the Shopify backend. If you're on Shopify, if you're on WooCommerce, then WooCommerce backend. So because every single purchase, when the order is placed, the request was sent to the backend and you will process that. That is most accurate data you can get. You are not going to lose any information from there. So if you can get data from the backend, from the server, then this is way more accurate than what you can get. So that's why the whole industry is shifting towards tracking on the server side. Another part is why cookies still matters, right? Even though you can track on the server side. It's because a lot of like front-end events, like for example, like who viewed your product detail page, those kind of things can only happen on the website. And Safari has become a really huge pain of tracking those data because they deprecate cookies every 7 days if it's not set from a third party like Facebook, like Google, like Klaviyo, etc. That means you can only track your clients, your visitors' behavior within 7 days of window. Beyond that, they become anonymous again. So even though they have given you like emails or like, they have purchased before, you should know their identity, but you don't. So you're missing out a lot of conversion tracking data because of the cookie deprecation. That is the current pain points.
So what that looks like. So in terms of that, we talk about attribution, all this kind of stuff. But what that looks like, kind of with an e-commerce journey, if you're the type of e-commerce store where you sell a fairly low value product, it's not a considered purchase. It's quite a simple thing. It's a bit out of date, my normal example, but my normal example is Batman on Blu-ray, right? If you're looking for Batman on Blu-ray, you're searching for that. What the film is you want to buy, what the format is it in stock? It's, £10, £15, $15, whatever it is, right? The price is quite low. I know the thing I'm buying and you buy it. So it's usually, I click the ad, I land on the page and I buy it. 80% of people would buy it there and then, or they just never would buy it. Okay. There's a small number of people who might come back in 2 or 3 or 5 days or 14 days. But when we're talking about that one-click purchase within 24 hours, there isn't really any impact on this kind of 7-day problem. But where there is a problem is when it is a more expensive purchase and when it is more considered. And many of those, let's take, I don't know, garden furniture, for example, you're talking about high ticket, you're talking about considered purchase, and somebody could easily see an ad on Facebook, click, look at the page, think about it, talk to their partner, forget about it, then be planning a party in 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, we were going to sort that stuff out we were going to sort that out because we're having this barbecue, right? And then you go, and then you go and search Google. And then the same user clicks an ad now on Google and lands on your page. And then they think about it for about a week and they don't do anything. And they come back 8 days later. So under the new, or not the new system, under the iOS, that purchase now happens. Well, we don't know anything about that Facebook click anymore. So Facebook doesn't get any credit. So we're not going to invest more in Facebook because Facebook's not generating sales. The second problem is they then clicked a Google ad, and Google ads like tracking isn't going to work because we're out of this 7 days on iOS again. So it means we have no idea where that sale came from.
Right.
And because we don't know where it came from, we can't then choose to invest more in Facebook ads or that particular creative or that particular ad set or that particular ad group or whatever. We don't have any measurement of what succeeded or what didn't. So that's why the 7-day issue is a much bigger issue. I mean, if you're on a website selling iPhone accessories, I mean, you're screwed, right? Basically.
Mostly on iOS. Yes, exactly. I actually have a client on that, purely on iOS.
Yeah. And some e-commerce stores, just the products that they sell just naturally would have an audience where there's a high percentage of those would be on iOS, and the 7-day issue is a much bigger issue for them, of course. But outside of iOS, what's the number of days we're talking about there? Is that like 30 days?
No, actually, Chrome has not deprecated cookies yet.
Okay.
They still can last for 1 year. And we will see what they're going to do next year because they kept talking about it. They haven't done anything yet, but they said they're going to do something next year. We'll see.
Yeah. But I think they said that last year as well.
I know. They say that every single year.
Okay. So, I one of my favorite analogies, and anybody who knows me will know that I use this quite a lot, but I talk about like Formula One, like motor racing. And the analogy is pretty good because there's so many different elements to winning a Grand Prix, right? It's not just, let's just have a better engine. Yeah, but your driver's not the best. And he can't handle the engine. So you're still crashing, you're still losing. Like, you can't just fix the engine. But also, okay, well, let's get better aero, let's get better fuel consumption, better fuel economy. We use less fuel, we carry less fuel, the car is lighter, we go faster. So many elements that you can optimize. But equally, it would be a bit like saying, like, well, is our car, like, are we doing better? Well, we can't measure the top speed. We don't have a speedo. Well, how do you know you're going the fastest then? Like, you have no idea. But equally, again, data-driven, like sport. So what's our cornering speed on each of these corners? What's everybody else's? Where are we losing time? Is it down the straight? Is it because of aero? Is it acceleration out of the corner? Is it is our cornering speed faster or slower compared to everybody else? And because we can measure every one of those points, we can go, well, let's change the engineering of our car to optimize it for high speed cornering because that's where we're losing time and therefore losing races. And what we're saying with this is we're just like you can measure 7 laps, but after that we're going to throw that data away and we're not going to give it to you anymore. so it's like, well, how the hell can I improve this? So how do we what do we do about this then? So what can an e-commerce store owner do? Can they just install an app and great, or do they have to go and pay a developer to come and fix this? Like, is there just a switch in the back end of WooCommerce? Like, what do you do about this problem?
Right. So luckily, there's a solution to that. We did a lot of research on that. So we read the entire ITP, Intelligent Tracking Prevention from Safari, and we realized there's one way they allow you to do it, which is using a first-party data. We hear first-party data a lot. It seems like a buzzword, but what it really means is that if it's a cookie set by your domain, for your domain, this kind of cookie can last for 1 year. So what it really means is Apple, Safari, they want you as a domain owner to collect data instead of on the third party collecting data on behalf of you, like Facebook, Google, etc. So they want a more privacy centric way of collecting data. It's like you own the data and you should be controlling your own data instead of having a third party managing, controlling data for you, if that makes sense. I personally think that's a good change for the world. Yeah.
Okay, so just to tackle this third party versus first party. So the point here is we have a domain name. Let's call it tillisoneCommerce.com.
Right.
Okay, if at the moment what we would be doing on there is we'd have the Google Ads tracking code on there, the script. We'd have used Tag Manager or whatever to put that on there, or eCommerce store plugin or whatever, and it would be tracking using Google's tracking. Okay,
right.
So that's a third party. Okay, so. Is the second party the customer? Is that the bit I'm missing?
The second party
or is that a first party? So, but the point is here that then Google and or Facebook and or Klaviyo or whatever are kind of going, well, I've got a tag on tillisoncommerce.com and I've got, another thing on, I don't know, Amazon or whatever. So that third party, being Google or Facebook, knows that you have gone from Tillison Commerce to Amazon to something else. So Facebook's able to kind of track you around the web, and that's where I think the privacy and the complaint comes, right? Which is probably a fair one. But what we're saying is that actually, if tillisoncommerce.com issues the cookie, and we're only tracking your interaction with our website, that's a relationship between you and me, right?
Yes.
I don't know where you go next. It's nothing to do with me, and that's you and the next website, and they would track you. So the problem is, I'm kind of facilitating at the moment on my website, feeding your browsing data to Facebook and or Google and or anybody else, and so is everyone else. Whereas the first party cookie, what we're saying is that's your data you're giving to me, and we're happy with that because I can't see your life. I can only see your interaction with my website, which seems a lot fairer. So we have to find a way for our website to issue the cookie and our website to do the tracking then.
Correct. Yeah.
So how do we do that?
So your explanation is very on point. That's exactly what it means. And to do that, obviously, Aimerce, my product, solve that problem for people. The way we can do that is because we integrate into a Shopify platform, like a website builder. You can potentially integrate into any website builder because for Shopify merchants, for example, your real domain is not your domain. It's the xyz.myshopify.com.
Yep.
That is your real domain. And you are basically redirecting from that domain to your own domain.
Everything else is just a mask over the top.
Exactly. So if we are able to integrate into myshopify.com, then it solves all the problems for Shopify merchants. That's why we are like a Shopify native solution.
Yeah.
But obviously, this same solution can apply to any other website builder or any other platforms.
Yeah.
The most extreme case is if you build a website yourself without using any website builder, which is possible. And then you can potentially solve that problem by changing your DNS and have your domain issue the cookie, which is also very doable technically. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if I have a Shopify store, we come to Aimerce, we pay our subscription fee, we click the button, we follow a bunch of steps, and we configure it. And then how much more data typically are you seeing for people using your platform?
Yeah, we're seeing about 40% more than what you currently have. We can send those data to both Klaviyo, Omnisend, or Google and Facebook. So you will see performance go up almost instantly. Yeah.
So if Google Ads is reporting we're doing 100K in sales through its conversion tracking with the third-party cookies and everything else, we're saying Aimerce is going to report more like 140K.
Depend. Yeah.
Around that.
Around that. Depends on how much traffic is actually from people.
Yeah, of course. But broadly, we're saying, and actually, that's the difference in the return on ad spend working or not. In many cases, without that 40%, it looks like it's failing miserably. Turn it off or fix it. We've got a problem. Or you're turning things off that are actually working. With that 40%, that's the difference between actually that is successful and now it looks successful. Whereas before it was like, well, we think it's successful. We know there's a gap. We just don't know how big it is. So that is a game changer, I think. For e-commerce stores.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so what happens like today now if I've got lots of people obviously are on WordPress WooCommerce. So what do they do? What are their options?
I think you can still use our service. It just will require some of dev work. We have to work together to set the cookie together because we're not natively built into WooCommerce or BigCommerce yet. This is going to come up in the roadmap. So like it's very much doable. Just require probably a day of dev work.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still possible to do that and then do the things we've talked about already. So first party cookie rather than third party. And just to clear something up that might be confusing for people as well is that when we take that information in the first party cookie, so it's our data that you've given to us, you have converted, we're then giving that to Facebook or giving that to Google, right? But are we giving any personal information of yours as the user visiting our site? Are we giving any of that to Facebook? Or are we just literally saying, oh, that click from that whatever person, device, location, whatever, that converted and here's the sale value? Is that all we're passing? So we're still adhering to the privacy spirit of it and also the legal requirement.
Surprisingly, I will say yes. Surprisingly, Facebook is collecting all of those. All this data, if it's consented by the cookie consent, obviously. Within consent, then if they consent to the cookie, then Facebook is able to track and Aimerce is able to track all the behavioral events, including voluntarily input like the emails in the email pop-up, right? So like besides all the events, what's interesting about it is you have all the customer data attached to the events. For example, if they voluntarily give you the email in the pop-up, then of all the events after like checkout, or add your cart or view a product, you have the email attached to those events. And then you can send those events back to Facebook. And the Facebook is able to figure out, hey, this is this exact Facebook profile that checkout but did not purchase. Then we can target them more people like that, right? So back to the question, your question, do we send customer data? Yes, that's very necessary. And that's what is currently being done by Google, by Facebook. Obviously, everything's within consent, on the cookie consent, right? If you don't consent it, nothing will be tracked, so you know. So for those kind of customer information, it's extremely important because if imagine you send a behavioral event, add your cart, checkout starter with nothing attached to it, then those kind of events basically doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you like who are they, where they're coming from.
You can't attribute it back to the click and their profile on Facebook or Instagram or whatever.
And they can't use that data to train the algorithm because it doesn't do anything, doesn't tell them anything. So what I'm telling you here is a very important piece of like how you improve Facebook, Google ads fundamentally is to send Facebook and Google more customer data attached to those behavioral events, right? All the customer data can be achieved in multiple different ways. One is the click ID, obviously. If they come from a Facebook ad, Google ad, and Facebook, Google can tell who they are from the click ID. The second way is optimize your email pop-up. Have more people voluntarily give you their information, right? Then that's how you legally track their behavioral data. The third way is have more return users. If you can have more return users, those people already have given you their information, name, phone number, email address. And when they come back to the site, they have been on the site and they purchased about like 20, 30 days ago, and you already know their identity. So that's how you fundamentally improve like all your customer behavioral events on your website.
And I think the bit that I love most of all about this, so I've heard you talk about this before, is that actually you can have much greater visibility of that user and all of their interactions over a much longer period of time. So where did they first come from? How did they get to you? What did they buy? Did they come back through email? Did they come back through another Facebook ad because you're retargeting your audience and targeting your email list? Did they come through Google search? And you've got this whole picture through a much longer period of time, which means when you're then thinking about what's our return on ad spend from Google ads, or what's our return on ad spend from Facebook ads, or whatever. Actually, if the Facebook ads click was the thing that brought you that customer, but they come back and repeat purchase again and again and again, you're starting to attribute way more value to Facebook. And then obviously, because you can see more value, you can understand how valuable that platform or that particular ad or that creative or that ad set or that particular location or people on this device or that device, like it gives you not just kind of more data, but more data for longer. And that to me is like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, you know.
So having a full picture about how your site visitor is doing and why they come back and when they come back is super important, because then you can figure out like what's the behavioral pattern for my customers. How do I target them better? How do I understand my customers better? And fundamentally, that's how you improve Facebook or any sort of marketing strategies, is to understand your customers better, right?
Awesome. Good. So we're running out of time. So yeah, please tell us where can people reach you? You clearly know this stuff inside out and you've put a huge amount of hard work in. So how can people reach you?
Yeah, so you're welcome to visit my website. It's aimerce.ai. It's aimerce.ai. And there's a demo book link, and that goes to my calendar directly. So you can talk to me and book time with me.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Inside Digital Podcast. Make sure to visit our website at tillison.co.uk, where you can read more about topics discussed in this show and much more. If you're looking to get started or to continue your digital marketing journey, we can help. Just reach out to one of our experts through our website. We'd love to hear if you found value in this show. Please leave a review and be sure to tune in for our next episode.